You are listening to Mind Over Me, the mental wellness podcast with me, Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist and someone who is very mindful and aware of the decline in our collective mental health. I created this podcast so that we could have more direct and honest conversations about difficult topics and difficult issues. It's my goal to have honest but direct conversations that we need to have that are necessary. It's also my goal to give my listeners the information that they need in order to find their own mental health and mental wellness. This is where you will find the information that you need to be your own healer. And of course, all of this is based on years of clinical experience and expertise. Thank you for being here. Let's dive right in. It must be Sunday because here I am at the mic recording my next episode. This is Mind for Me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Today happens to be Super Bowl Sunday. Whip-de-doo. I'm going to a friend's house here in a little while to just hang out, really. Really just to hang out. Just it's a good reason to get together with people. But here I am back on the mic recording another episode. I know it probably sounds a little bit different. I kind of changed my setup. I kind of changed my setup, but here we are. I missed last week. I did not publish an episode last week, so if I have any faithful listeners out there, thank you for being faithful. I'm sorry that I missed last week. I actually had a migraine. I'd been getting more frequently some migraine symptoms. Last weekend was the worst I'd ever had. My vision went completely haywire. My brain went completely haywire. The good news is I didn't really have like the nasty, painful cluster headache that a lot of people get, knock on wood. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. I've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on with migraines. I really don't know that much about them, but as I research migraines, I'm learning that, well, most people really don't know much about migraines. Turns out the medical system, including neurologists, can't tell you a whole lot about them. Shocker. That's a big, giant shocker. Seriously, they don't fix or cure a damn thing. Nothing. They don't cure anything. Absolutely nothing. But same is true for the mental health system. They don't cure anything. Nothing. But again, the goal of my podcast, the goal of my content is to actually give you the right answer so that you can have good mental health rather than keeping you dependent on the system. I was just writing a very short answer to a question online where someone was asking, do you need a therapist to heal? And I thought that might be an important and intriguing question to get to before I dive into the topic of this episode, which is what's wrong with me? This is a question I get asked from clients all the time as a therapist. They are always asking, what's wrong with me? It's like they believe they're going through life as though they're flawed, broken, and defective, and it's a source of pain. They believe that they're flawed, they're broken, they're defective, therefore incapable, therefore they're stuck this way for the rest of their lives. And so I'm going to get to that. That's what our topic is today. We're going to talk all about that. And for all intents and purposes, I will attempt to answer the question what I believe is in fact what's wrong with you or with people. But anyways, this question online, it's on Quora, Quora. I used to answer a lot of questions on Quora, and I think I'm going to maybe do that some more. I like doing writing. Try not to spread myself too thin, though, between all the podcasting and the videos and the writing and all that stuff, whatever. Anyways, here I am. The question was something to the effect of, do you need a therapist to, psychologically or mentally heal? Or, do you need to go to therapy to psychologically and mentally heal? Heal? Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not the least bit surprised that somebody would ask this question. It makes perfect sense that somebody would ask this question or raise this question because, yes, the medical system and the mental health system treat people like you need them, and that without them, you're lost, you're screwed, you're hopeless. And in many ways, I know this to be true about the mental health system, they have largely cut you out of the process. They're making all of your decisions for you. They're taking away your self-empowerment, your self-efficacy, your ability to help yourself. And they're coming up with they're constantly, believe me, people. I sit through this shit. I do. The continuing education, especially, I sit through this bullshit, and I listen to these assholes conjure up new a whole bunch of new ways of how we're phasing you out of the therapy process and making you more dependent on the system. And so we got to get doctors involved, and we have to get academia involved, and we have to get psychological testing involved. We have to get the freaking medication involved, and all the questionnaires, and all the bubble sheets, and all the research, and blah, 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 blah. And your part in your ability to help yourself is constantly being removed. Every little bit of self-empowerment, or what we call self-efficacy, which is, if you don't know, that's a clinical jargony term that just basically means your own ability to create the outcomes in life that you are seeking. So it would make perfect sense as to why people might think that therapists or psychologists or, God forbid, psychiatrists are the gatekeepers, that you can only access your own mental wellness or your own healing through them. Okay. Let me answer the question. False. No, that is not true. That is not even remotely true. There are very good therapists out there and some very good psychologists out there who can help you with it. They're a dying breed. They're disappearing. Helping people in this field is becoming a wildly unpopular thing to do. Psychiatrists, here, let me clear this up. A psychiatrist will never help you heal. Okay, all they do is give you pills. That's it. Pills don't fix you guys. Pills might be able to mitigate symptoms. Pills do not fix you. They don't fix your life. Okay. There was even a clip that had gone somewhat viral online recently. I saw bits and pieces of it, and I think some people were outside. I don't know. I think it was the American Psychiatrists Association conference or something, and so they asked a whole bunch of these psychiatrists there, like, how many patients have you healed? And like literally, I mean, they asked a whole bunch of these psychiatrists, how many patients have you healed? Most of them just laughed and chuckled. All the psychiatrists that I saw who were being asked this question, every single one of them basically stated, well, none. That's not how it works. So I disagree. You can absolutely find healing. It's possible that you might find it through therapy, but again, actually helping people in therapy is just becoming wildly unpopular thing to do in therapy these days. But no, you can absolutely find a way to heal yourself, okay? Again, my goal, my purpose is to give people the right and correct information. The truth of the matter is, okay, a therapist is not your hero. A doctor is not your hero. A psychologist, not your hero. These people are not the heroes of your story. The fact of the matter is that you are the hero of your story, whether you realize it or not. The only person that can really heal you is you. Only you can do that. One of the main reasons why you don't see very many people these days who are finding real healing is because that we have a societal and cultural norm to avoid, to run away and to avoid, and to numb your emotions and do anything and everything that you have to do to just feel better and to avoid any difficult emotions. That's not the solution, okay? This idea that in order to find real healing, you just have to get rid of the negative emotions. That's false. That is absolutely false. The way to healing is through. You got to go through everything. You got to go through all that, okay? You got to, like I did an episode on facing your pain. Go listen to it if you haven't already. And really, one of the things that I really work to teach people is learning to show up for themselves. And I know that sounds kind of vague. Fact of the matter is, I have seen so many people get a lot of benefit just from learning to show up for themselves emotionally in the proper way. Instead of thinking and feeling like, why am I not over this? Why doesn't the hurt just go away? Right? That doesn't work. That will never work. And I remember being on Pinterest one day and it's like rules for life. And one of the rules was time heals all. And I was like, that's a crock of shit, actually. Guys, time does not heal all. That's just feel good fluff for something for you to hang on your wall. That's completely false. Time does not heal everything. What heals things is you showing up for yourself. Okay. And so again, in this episode, I'm going to talk about I'm going to answer the question, what's wrong with me? Okay. So, a few months ago, I did an episode about shattered minds. I highly, highly recommend listening to that episode. If you haven't already, That is at the core basis, and for me personally, as to the source and cause and reason behind mental illness. Personally, I believe that that theory on psychology, the shattered mind or the fragmented self theory, should be the central feature of all psychology and all therapy. One of the therapy models that approaches this shattered self theory, one of my favorites, internal family systems, good stuff. I've used it for myself. Really, really good stuff. Very interesting stuff. I think it's very useful. I think it's very positive. But of course, the therapy community is very, very, very busy now, shouting it down and stepping on it and shitting on it and saying it's not scientific. And again, I believe that the therapy world is allergic to anything that might actually help people. So to finish answering this question, yes, you can absolutely heal yourself without therapy, without a psychologist, and especially you do not need a psychiatrist. You definitely do not. Just as a side note too, I know some people get psychologist and psychiatrist mixed up. A psychologist has a PhD, and we still call them doctor because they have a doctorate degree. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor, so they go to medical school and they earn a medical degree so they can prescribe medication. And then that's all they do at all for everybody. They just give you pills. I think there are two major things standing in people's way these days that are keeping them from finding real healing. Number one, there's just so much information out there, right? And on the one hand, it's like this era has the accessibility to a bottomless pit of helpful information. The negative to all of that is that it's hard to find the proper information, the helpful information, and getting rid of the crap, getting rid of the false information. The second obstacle, I would say, is just that, frankly, things have gotten too easy for people. And we've done a huge disservice by eliminating the need to work or to try or to make effort into things. And effort, y'all, is like the number one thing that stands between most people and getting better these days. There's just too many people that look at effort and they go, oh, well, I want things to be easy. As long as you're seeking a life that's easy, that doesn't require any effort, you're not going to make it. Okay, it's just the whole thing's going to end up being not good for you. It's going to be a bumpy road. Okay, good things come to those who work for it. Mental health is a lot like physical health. Okay, it's a lifestyle. You have to make certain choices. There's physical fitness and there's mental fitness. Being physically fit and mentally fit is, in fact, a lifestyle. Okay. So, yes, you can find healing. Yes, you can heal yourself. So, we're going to get into this topic. To be honest, I was kind of struggling to think of a topic, and I was just sort of browsing through Quora, and this one hit me. It just struck me, and I was like, sure, let's answer this question because it comes up a lot. People ask me this question: what's wrong with me? So I'm going to do my best to answer this question. First of all, the question itself is a little flawed and a little misguided. Second of all, I'm going to tell you what I believe is wrong with people. The question itself is kind of problematic because it implies that you are defective, that you just have some kind of flaw and that you have some sort of defect. This is one of the reasons why I get a little prickly about the ADHD diagnosis because, and sometimes depression too, is the ADHD is predicated on the notion that you're just defective, that there's just something wrong with you. And furthermore, that something cannot be fixed, cannot be remedied, cannot be altered, cannot be helped. You just have to take medication to manage it, which I think is a crock of shit. I think that's a complete crock of shit. I hate it when kids are diagnosed with ADHD. I work with teenagers. And inevitably, almost all of them will ask me, do you think I have ADHD? And I'm glad they ask, but at the same time, it's like they're waiting for me to say yes so that they can say, well, I guess that's, because what I notice with people with quote unquote ADHD is they start adopting the belief that, well, I'm just incapable now. Well, I guess that's it for me. Well, I guess that other people will be able to do things and I won't be able to do those things because I'm incapable now. ADHD is not a defect. Doesn't mean you're incapable. That's a crock of shit. If you ask me, just as a side note, ADHD just means that you don't fit in a box and that you have different strengths than maybe other people have. But they're not recognized as strengths as much as they used to. And you just have to be able to take those strengths and point them in the right direction and use them for your benefit, which absolutely can be done. So again, I take issue with this notion that people get into their heads at very young ages that the reason why they're struggling with their mental health is because there's something wrong with them. This lifestyle, this society, our way of living, perfectly fine, perfectly normal, perfectly natural, perfectly healthy. And if you're struggling in it, then there's something wrong with you. Now the whole premise of that is an absolute crock of shit. I'm going to be saying that. I'm realizing that I'm going to be saying that a lot. So get used to it. Buckle in, because we have all been fed a whole bunch of lies about mental health. So me personally, I got mentally healthy because I'm not just a therapist. I have done this myself. I've struggled with my mental health badly, and my mental health is quite good now, quite good. Which is partially why I'm sharing what I've learned, because I've helped myself as well as others. Consider that everything that you think that you know about mental health and mental illness might be wrong or at least inaccurate. So here you are, right? You are born into this society, okay? And it really, the societal norms and our standard way of living goes very against your nature, goes very against things that are just normally healthy for you. Rather than having two healthy parents, a lot of people now come from broken homes, for example. They have parents who are either working or staring at their phones all the damn time. Basically, we have parents who were not raised properly by parents who were not raised properly, who were raised by parents who were not raised properly. Now we have kids who are raised by iPads and iPhones, which, by the way, huge problem with that. Oh my God, so many people are in denial about the detriment that this is having on kids, but we're not going to talk about that. I mean, I'm not going to get into the fact that I see so many kids now that it's like they put more stock into the reality fed to them through a screen compared to the reality that's right in front of their faces. So there's like a detachment from reality, which is one of the core definitions of mental illness, is a detachment from reality. That they believe what they see through a screen more than what they see with their own eyes. So that's one thing that's wrong with people. As you grow and mature, the different parts of your brain turn on slowly, one part at a time. The human brain, once it's fully functioning, is basically like 4 or 5 brains all slapped together, tugging and pulling on itself back and forth, back and forth. In a perfect world, we would teach children mental mastery, how to master their mind. Notice when their ego shows up, help them understand what their ego is, having that little chatter voice in their head, understanding what's going on with that chattery little monologue in their head, what the ego is, right? And as they grow, improve their critical thinking skills. Well, that's something that has largely left us these days, is true critical thinking skills. The biggest irony of that situation is that the people who are thinking the least critically think they're thinking the most critically, but that's neither here nor there. But without any type of training or education or practice on managing your brain, meanwhile, you're given this smartphone that is giving it a constant stream of stimulus and information, which scatters the brain even more, which scatters the attention or its ability to pay attention even more. Okay, nobody is learning how to train their brain, how to master their mind, how to get the junk out of their head, how to manage their thoughts. There's virtually zero accurate psychoeducation about how the mind works, where thoughts come from, where feelings come from, why we have certain thoughts. Which thoughts are which thoughts, blah, 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 right? Because you have different thoughts and you have different types of thoughts and they come from different places. I think of it this way, like your mind can almost be like, if you get a new puppy, right? They're cute, they're adorable, you love them, but they're untrained, right? And if you don't do anything to train the dog, they're going to be crazy. They're going to be chaotic and destructive and hyper. And right, the dogs need structure. They need consistency. They need to be trained, right? And so the dog will grow older, and the dog chews on everything, chews up your shoes, pisses on the carpet, and it's just out of control. Barks at everything, and it's just kind of out of control. Okay, like our minds are very very similar to that way. Like we do nothing in our culture to master our mind or manage our mind and its thoughts. It's not necessarily our fault, right? Our parents and teachers and whomever could have, should have taught us those things, but frankly, most of them don't know those things either anymore. These are lost things. There's really hardly any distinction anymore between like adult thinking and child thinking. Did a whole episode on that as well, being a child versus being an adult. You need to commence. You need to go from childish thinking and a childish, selfish mindset to adult thinking and adult mindset. I've made TikTok videos about this, and I've had people comment and say, "Oh, it's not required to grow up anymore." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" Because a lot of young people believe this. They don't believe that it's necessary to grow up anymore. So why should I? And it's just like, I mean, talk about a childish mindset. Yes, it's still required, very much so. We're also raised in a society that has junk values. People lack real substance. We no longer have celebrities or artists or musicians that support good values, support positive values. I mean, I have young people tell me all the time, life feels pointless and stupid. What's the point? And I'm like, well, becoming a person of substance is part of the point, but that's an art that has largely been lost. Everybody's chasing after all these hollow, vapid things that leave them feeling empty and as though life is pointless. Imagine being a fish and you're born in a fish tank where the water's just filthy, right? And you grow up in this fish tank and you just like you're sick and you're struggling because the water is filthy and the tank doesn't get cleaned, and then we blame the fish and we go, "What's wrong with that fish?" That's essentially what's going on these days. Regardless, it's important to not be a victim because that's going to make everything worse. Don't sit because I see this with young people too, where they go like, "Oh, well, there's nothing I can do to better my situation, so why even try?" And it's like, oh my God, oh, what have we done? What have we done, guys? I'm sorry. I'm sorry we didn't raise you better, but good Lord, we've created a monster. I'm sorry, young people. We did. We screwed up. It's our bad. It really is. It's our bad. That's on us. So one of the things that's wrong with us is that we've never learned to be mentally well. We've never been taught truly how to be mentally well. I realize that a lot of students are getting some mental health education, like in public school health classes. I'm sorry, not sorry, but most of the information that they're giving is a crock of shit. Well, there it is. Turn that into a drinking game. I'm just kidding. Don't drink alcohol. It's terrible for you. So back to the question at hand. What's wrong with me? Well, you were raised in a culture and a society and an environment that does not support or truly conducive to mental well-being, mental fitness, or mental health. You were taught all the wrong things about yourself, about life, about the world, about other people, about being a person of substance, and how to be mentally well. That's for starters what's wrong with you. Now, it's not your fault that this happened, but it is your job to fix it. You still have to take responsibility for your life. So really, I mean, I'm kind of answering the question. Okay, what's wrong with me? When we're answering the question, what's wrong with me? It really is that we have scattered and shattered minds. Our minds are fragmented. There's your like your mind is not integrated, right? Integrated means that like I mean think of like your computer where all the parts are talking to each other and working for one goal and one purpose. All the different parts of your mind have various goals, their own goals and their own purposes, and tell you every which way and cause a lot of confusion and chaos. The key, the solution really is mental mastery so that you can create one goal, one purpose, one direction. But for most of us as well, we endure a lot of trauma, childhood trauma in various forms. There's big T and there's little t, or what I call hard T and soft T. Like there's the trauma where like violent sexual abuse would fall under that category, or violent child abuse, physical abuse would fall under the big T or hard T category. The small T category is like the assault on your character and your identity. the emotional manipulation that might come from a parent. It's the trauma that happens to your the core psychology of yourself. That comes in the form of mental manipulation, um, not getting properly loved, having to earn your love, always or never feeling like you're good enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That type of trauma is extremely common and very, very, very pervasive these days. Parents are often parenting their children in a transactional way. I will love you. I will approve of you when you perform correctly and accurately. When you give me the behavior that I want, when you give me the behavior that I like, then I will give you approval. If you don't do what I like, then I'm going to withdraw from you. I'm going to treat you poorly, that type of thing. Unconditional love, unfortunately, from parents is often dead. These days, it's too dead. So there's a trauma to the self. People grow up believing that they're inherently unlovable, which is what I call the core wound. I mean, virtually every single person that comes into my office has this same core wound. That deep down, they do not believe that they are inherently lovable just as they are, that they have to earn their love by performing well or being good enough or being successful enough. It's true for everybody. So this is trauma to the identity. This is trauma to the self. It's soft T, it's small t. It usually goes unnoticed, untreated. The psychology world in general does a very poor job of acknowledging it, which also translates to them doing a poor job of helping it, obviously. But when you endure trauma, it basically kind of fractures or fragments your mind. The worse the trauma, the greater the fragmentation is. My theory is that when someone is highly, highly fragmented, they're more likely to exhibit a personality disorder. So hopefully you all kind of get what I'm getting at. What I believe is the core of what's wrong with most people is their mind is fractured or fragmented or scattered in some way or another. I will just add this too. So think of your mind as a software, right? Your mind is your software, right? Your programming, your conditioning. Okay, so if you have certain programming, thoughts, beliefs, paradigm structures, et cetera, about yourself specifically, you are going to perform that function just like a computer will do what it's supposed to do according to what the software tells it to do. And most people, I would say pretty much all of them, I almost never, ever come across anyone that I think has really, really good wiring, really good operating system in their mind. But most people these days, I mean, like the vast majority of people these days, have really bad software, so to speak. So they're going to act according to their software. The trouble is there's not enough people out there who are willing to go, is my belief system accurate? Is my paradigm structure accurate? Do I view the world and other people accurately? No. None of that. Most of that is gone now. It's I'm right about everything, and anyone that sees the world different from me is evil and stupid. There's just not enough people willing to self-reflect and going, I need to fix me, right? Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up, but let's see if we can get some shadow work journal prompts going. I like to finish every episode with shadow work journal prompts. Shadow work is a great way to work on your wiring, change your programming. We do that through revealing the hidden parts of ourselves that are difficult to find. The more that we do shadow work and the more we build our awareness, the more that we can integrate our mind into one working piece of hardware, right? One working piece of software, I should say. I always try to do shadow work journal prompts at the end of every episode if you're new here. So I encourage people that if you're going to do my shadow work journal prompts, you ought to have a couple things in mind. One is that it's most helpful. You're going to get the most out of it if you keep a shadow work journal. So get a separate journal or a notebook to do these. A little bit of a disclaimer too. My shadow work journal prompts are high accountability, personal responsibility. Journal prompts has nothing to do with blaming other people or externalizing our problems. It's facing ourselves. So my shadow work journal prompts are not for wimps. Here's the rest of that disclaimer. I'm a therapist. I'm not your therapist. Use your own discretion. And if you would like some additional help, you may want to find a good therapist, emphasis on good therapist, who can support you through the process. Okay, we're going to dig in deep with this one. Okay, you ready? We're going to face ourselves. We're going to get in there and look really, really closely at our belief and paradigm structures. Okay, number one, journal prompt number one. Have I believed that I am personally flawed or defective? If so, answer this one. If yes, and most people are probably going to say yes, where did that belief come from? Where did it originate? Who put that shit into your head? We're not here to blame them, but it is very important sometimes to retrace our steps in life so that we can unlearn things. I know there are tons of people already that are like, oh, I don't have to think about that. I know exactly where that shit came from. Because I know exactly where that shit came from with me. I had to unlearn a whole bunch of things, y'all. I had to unlearn a whole bunch of things. Okay, moving on. What defect did I believe that I had or have? Or what defect have I thought was whatever, right? If you believed, here's what I'm getting at. If you have believed that you have had a defect, then what is that? What is the perceived defect? Number three, what, if anything, have I believed is standing between me and being mentally healthy? Number four, this one's very important, digging really, really deep. Okay, this was very important. For emphasis, very important, digging deep. Okay, what have I been afraid to admit about myself? In other words, right, what have you been afraid to look at? Because the truth is that looking at ourselves can be scary because we're afraid we might discover something about ourselves. What is that thing that you were afraid you might discover about yourself? Hopefully that makes sense. Finally, number five, this is going to be the last one for this episode. I'm going to wrap it up. Do I believe that those things can be fixed, remedied, or changed? All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. Yeah, I will hopefully be on the mic next week, and gonna keep this train going. Hopefully, don't forget that I have a anxiety course on my website. It's a very long, robust course that's gonna help you master your anxiety. I will put that link in the description below. So remember, you must do hard things.